Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first round of the NFL draft. We are just moments away from the commissioner taking the stage here, and the Tennessee Titans are going to be on the clock. It seems more and more likely. That there is going to be chaos within this first round here, with multiple teams looking to trade up into the top 3 or 5 picks to get their guys, and also a lot of teams interested in trading down as they don't feel like they have good value with the picks that they currently have. So, what we're looking at right now, we are just, as I mentioned, moments away from the Tennessee Titans being on the clock. I think we can all assume that Cam Ward is going to be the pick here, quarterback out of Miami. We'll see if that ends up happening, because I think we all thought Travis Hunter was going to be 2, Abdul Carter was going to be 3, Mason Graham was going to be 5, Ashton Jeanty was going to be 6, but it seems like a lot of that could change now. So, as we wait, let's just go through this. So, the top 10, I think that's what we're going to go live for here. Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, New England Patriots, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5, the Las Vegas Raiders at 6, the New York Jets at 7, the Carolina Panthers at 8, the New Orleans Saints at 9, and the Chicago Bears at 10. So, we expect that to change now. We all thought that there might be some changes within the top 10, maybe Chicago trading up to 5, maybe Jacksonville trading down, maybe Cleveland or the Giants moving. But now it seems like there could be a lot more than we expected. The latest rumors is the Jaguars moving up to 2 to get Travis Hunter. Very, very similar to what the Browns did almost a little bit more than a decade ago now, I believe, when they traded out of the Julio Jones pick, and the Atlanta Falcons ended up getting Julio Jones. So we'll see if this trade goes even worse than the first time they tried making a trade like this. But it has not been confirmed yet, so we will see what happens. The one thing we can almost certainly confirm is that Cam Ward, by the end of the next 10 or so minutes, will be a Tennessee Titan. So, just depends on how long the Titans want to milk the clock. And I'm assuming it'll probably be with about 3 minutes left on the clock. They'll finally come out, they'll get the pick in, and they will make the announcement. And he will be on his way to Nashville to greet the media and all the VIPs at their VIP draft party. Now, is he the best player in the draft? No, he is not. Is he a franchise quarterback? I think a lot of people are still concerned that he might not be. A lot of people have him outside of their top 10 on their big boards when you look across the media. Mel Kiper has Shedeur Sanders as his number 1 quarterback, not even Cam Ward as his number 1 quarterback. So we'll see if this ends up being the right choice. But that's what Tennessee Titans are going to go with. They decide to go away from the position players, get away from Abdul Carter, the best edge rusher in this draft, get away from the unicorn and Travis Hunter, who could play on both sides of the ball and make an impact, and try to go out there and get their franchise quarterback this year with the number 1 overall pick. So we will see what happens, but it seems like Will Levis's time in Tennessee is over, the failed experiment, and Cam Ward will be taking the reins. I personally have no issue with it. I think Abdul Carter would be an interesting pick here. Gives them presence off the edge. Not really necessary in the AFC South, as CJ Stroud is really the only problem in that division. We'll see what happens with Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, now under Liam Cohen. James Gladstone is the GM. So we'll see if Jacksonville can be a little bit more of an issue for teams this year. So I think that is why Tennessee is comfortable going and getting their franchise quarterback this year and staying away from a potential game changer on the defensive side of the ball. So we're still waiting. We'll see. They have not put the clock on yet, but Roger Goodell just took the stage. So it seems like we are about to get going here in Green Bay. And I guess we'll keep talking about Cam Ward because that's what's going to happen here. Looks like Clay Matthews came out with him and a few other Green Bay Packers, I believe. But Cam Ward played 5 seasons in college football, and he was good in all 5 seasons that he played. Incarnate Wood for 2 years, Washington State for 2 years, and this past season at Miami, where he was the best quarterback in the country. I think out of all the quarterbacks in this class, the key here, or not necessarily the key, but the storyline is that he has the least amount wrong with him. Uh, he's got a live arm, he's athletic, he can play make outside of the pocket, but he still has his issues like everybody else in this class. I think, everybody praises his poise all the time. Sometimes he can be a little bit too casual and the ball gets away from him because of that. He underthrows the ball, he throws behind his receivers, he ends up putting a little bit too much air under the ball, and, he's also had issues with fumbles. So those are definitely things that can be fixed. They're not major issues necessarily. I mean, within this offseason, between now and the start of the regular season, they should be able to develop him, and he should be fine. I've liked Cam Ward since his first year at Washington State. I first started scouting him last year when he could have come out of Washington State last year, but decided to stay the extra year and transfer to Miami. But we'll see. I think that extra year in college probably benefited him a lot. He went into more of a pro-style offense in Miami, played against better competition, better defenses, and Miami is not the best team in the FBS, right? So he was the best player on the team. He didn't have as many weapons as some of these other top quarterbacks had. So he had to do a lot more than you'd probably want. So you got to see a little bit more of him, got to see a little bit off script, a little bit more. And I think that's what made the Tennessee Titans okay with making this pick here, because they are not ready to compete. They got Calvin Ridley, who, according to Cam Ward, is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And also, Treylon Burks is apparently a top 5 receiver in the NFL. So I don't necessarily agree with that. But he's doing his he's doing what he has to do PR wise to make sure everybody's happy here. But Cam Ward in Tennessee is going to be a project. You're going to need to be patient with him. You're going to need to be patient with this team, because they're going to have to add more and more talent. This is not a 1 year and done kind of situation, right? We saw the Cincinnati Bengals turn their team around really quickly after drafting Joe Burrow. We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars, although it hasn't gone well recently, they turned it around generally quickly when they drafted Trevor Lawrence. We're not going to get that same kind of thing here with Cam Ward. I think there's the possibility that they have a really good season just because of how weak the division is. And I think they can beat up on a lot of these teams within the AFC South. But I also think that's great for his development as well. He's going to be going up against less talented defenses, which is going to take a little bit of the pressure off of him. So Tennessee is officially on the clock. They got 9 minutes and 50 seconds left. We know it's going to be Cam Ward. That's why we've been talking about it, right? And we're just going to be sitting here waiting and seeing how long they drain this clock before they actually make the pick. So that we don't keep beating a dead horse here and talking about Cam Ward, we can move on and start talking about some things that could potentially happen later on. And the first thing that we need to talk about is Cleveland and Jacksonville, with the potential of a trade happening here. It hasn't been confirmed from what I've seen, going through social media, trying to figure out what's going to happen here. But as of right now, in my mock draft, I have Travis Hunter going to the Cleveland Browns. I don't think that changes if someone trades up into this pick. I think they are trading up to get Travis Hunter. It would be interesting to see if someone trades up and takes Abdul Carter instead. That could be an interesting twist that no one probably thought would come out of this. But Travis Hunter he's pretty much a 1A, 1B with Abdul Carter here for me as the best players in this draft. And I think if he is successful playing both sides of the ball, and making an impact on both sides of the ball, like a good impact on both sides of the ball, I think he's clearly the number 1 player in this class. He's my number 2 wide receiver. He's my number 4 cornerback, just individually on the positional side. So if you're a top 5 player at both of those positions, you continue that at the next level, you are going to be very, very happy whichever team ends up drafting him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here because, as I mentioned, Jacksonville is looking to potentially move up here into the second position. I mentioned the Julio Jones trade. Years and years ago, the Cleveland Browns had that pick, traded it to the Atlanta Falcons. It did not turn out well for them. So based on what we're seeing here, it looks like Jacksonville is going to be the one that moves up to 2 if it goes through. We should find out within the next 5 or so minutes. What Cleveland needs is they need to draft Ashton Jeanty at 5. If they do not get Ashton Jeanty, then this entire trade blows up in their face. We've been hearing rumors about Chicago trying to trade up because they want Ashton Jeanty. They want that running game in this offense for Ben Johnson, their new head coach, former Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see if the Giants or the Patriots get on the phone with Chicago, see if they can strike a deal to get in front of Cleveland. Because, with the injury to Nick Chubb, he's no longer he's not going to be what they're looking for anymore. And they need a running back. I don't think Ted McMillan's the place here. They could go offensive line, but if the Patriots stay where they are, they're drafting Will Campbell. Do the Browns feel comfortable at pick 5 getting Kelvin Banks or Armand Membu? I don't know if that's what you're doing to make this trade. And then if you trade down with Carolina or New Orleans or Chicago, right, then it completely changes the story here. But if you are moving down to 5, you're still looking for one of the premium position players. We'll see what happens, but I think they're moving down in hopes of still getting Ashton Jeanty. I think how it goes is Jacksonville will go up and draft Travis Hunter. Abdul Carter would then go to the New York Giants. New England would stay where they are and get Will Campbell as planned. And then Ashton Jeanty falls to the Browns there at 5. I think that's the ideal situation that they're looking at. I think they wouldn't make this trade if they didn't think that was going to happen. Looks like Tennessee's on the phone right now, currently calling whoever the pick is going to be. We'll see if something crazy happens here. But in a few moments, we should be getting the Cam Ward announcement to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not going to spoil picks for anybody that's, watching. But it's looking like Cam Ward is going to be the pick here. They're already playing the highlights on ESPN from Miami. But it'll be really interesting here because, around the same time that we get this notification about is Cam Ward going to be the number 1 overall pick, we are going to find out the future of the number 2 overall pick. Where is Ashton Jeanty going to go? Is it Cleveland? Is it New England? Is it Jacksonville? Is it other? Is it someone else? Does someone else end up trading up and making a splash here? It'll also be interesting if Cleveland ends up going Ashton Jeanty at 5, if they trade out. What happens with some of these other teams that are looking for running backs? Does Amari Hampton go 12? Does Chicago still draft Amari Hampton at 10? Does Chicago trade back because they don't like what they have at 10 anymore? They don't like the value. So there could be a lot of chaos going on here in these first few picks. There could also be nothing. This could all be smoke and nothing happens at all. So we'll see what ends up happening here. The pick is in. So we are just waiting on the announcement from the commissioner. And we'll see what happens. I don't think any of us are going to be surprised here with pick number 1. Honestly, I'm just waiting for number 2 at this point. I want to see what happens. I want to see if there's a trade. I want chaos. We're just waiting on the commissioner to come out. I kind of want this pick to be over at this point because, unless something crazy happens, we know what's going to happen. So, sitting here, waiting. Pick is in. But we'll see. Cam Ward is my 15th ranked player in this class, my number 1 quarterback. It's a little bit closer than some people may have. And obviously the key here is Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart are my QBs 4 and 3 in that order. And Kyle McCord is actually my QB 2. So A little bit of a shakeup there from consensus, but it looks like the commissioner might be coming out to the podium in a second, waiting on this, and it looks like he is making his way to the stage. So let's wait and see what happens here. And Cam Ward is a Tennessee Titan. I don't think anybody here is surprised. He was the number one quarterback. I don't think there was really any question about it. Obviously, there's people like Mel Kiper who have Shedeur Sanders as their quarterback one, but that is the minority. I've seen a few other people have it. I believe Bucky Brooks, I could be wrong there, had Shedeur Sanders as their QB1 as well, among others. But Cleveland has traded. Yep, Jacksonville has moved up to number 2, and they are on the clock. Wow. 2 first-round it's a first-round pick swap, pick 36, I believe a 4th-round pick, and the 2026 Jaguars first-round pick to move up to number 2 and most likely select Travis Hunter out of Colorado. Cam Ward is walking out of the tunnel now to go greet the commissioner. He's got his Tennessee Titans hat on, and he is going to be heading to Nashville. But the big news is we already have chaos. Jacksonville has moved up. Cleveland will now have the number 5 overall pick in this draft. Well, we're getting what we want early. I think a lot of people were concerned that, people aren't going to want to trade up. A lot of people are going to want to trade down. But I think what you got to understand about all of these drafts is despite the talent level, despite what's going on, every team has the players that they want, and they will go up to get them. They will be aggressive. You see GMs like Howie Roseman, who, you might not think, oh, they're going to trade up for this player, but they're going to do it because they're going to get the player that they need and they want for their team. So definitely expect some chaos here. There's 5 minutes and 42 seconds left on the clock here for Jacksonville. I mean, I think we all know what the pick's going to be. It's going to be Travis Hunter. They said that they want to make an impact on the offensive side of the ball. Guess what? They get to make an impact on both sides of the ball here with Travis Hunter. So they get another weapon. Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter on the outside of that of that Jacksonville offense is going to be ridiculous. All right. Brian Thomas Jr. is probably a steal of the draft last year. Just because of the effectiveness that he had in a very dysfunctional Jacksonville offense. Now you bring in Liam Cohen. He gets 2 wide receivers now that he can work with and kind of build around. Hopefully Trevor's going this year. Hopefully Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby can kind of get new life under Liam Cohen and this new offense. We obviously saw Bucky Irving have a really good rookie season under this offensive scheme last year with Tampa Bay. So we'll see if Travis Hunter can kind of have a resurgence here. It'll be interesting to see. We saw the rumors that Jacksonville might be going Ashton Jeanty at 5. Could they go running back later on in this draft, whether it's day 2 or day 3, because we know that this running back class is extremely deep. I don't expect them to do it. If they do it, it'll probably be day 3 just because of the fact that they have Tank and Travis. But it'll also now be interesting to see how they attack the rest of this, right? I mean, we're looking, if I go here, Jacksonville traded away pick 36 in the second round. They do not have another second round pick. They have pick 70 in round 3, as well as pick 88. So they do still have 2. Day 2 picks, which we talk about all the time. Day 2 is the heart of this year's draft class. A lot of talent between, players 20 and 80. We'll say that. I think there could be potentially a few more added on to that as well. But I think Jacksonville did a good job here, right? They're getting the guy that they want. They're getting Travis Hunter, who's arguably the best player in this draft. He's going to play both ways. He's going to be an impact player on both sides of the ball. And they still have 2-day picks that, if they want to use both of them, great. If they want to package some things together to move up a little bit, maybe get back into round 2 to try to get someone that they really, really want. We know that they want to get an interior defensive lineman now that they passed on Mason Graham. And they're going to go Travis Hunter here. So do they go in a very deep interior defensive line class? We're looking at this day 3. Let's see who could be available here. Omar Norman-Lott, Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins, TJ Sanders, Tyleik Williams if he drops, CJ West out of Indiana. There's a lot of options here for them. And although I think Mason Graham out of Michigan, the interior defensive lineman, is the third best player in this class, you go out and get Travis Hunter, who's going to make an impact on both sides, and then you go and get a very effective interior defensive lineman late on day 2. I think this was the right move for Jacksonville. Giving up next year's first is a big cost, right? But I think we knew that coming in, that was going to be what happens. And now we just have to wait and see what Cleveland does. Does Cleveland win the day? Do they still get an impact player here at pick 5? We'll see what Chicago does. Now that Jacksonville moved up, does Chicago try to get on the phone with New England or the Giants? Or does Cleveland trade back again? I mean, I don't know. If they don't like what they have at 5 or they think they can get more and more picks, why wouldn't they trade back again, stay in the top 10, let Chicago get Ashton Jeanty, and go and get somebody at 10 who's still going to be an extremely impactful player? So we'll see what happens. The pick is in for the Jaguars, waiting for the commissioner to come up and announce the inevitable that Travis Hunter will be a Jacksonville Jaguar. He's coming out now. Well, that kind of ruins my mock draft here, as I had Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders going to the Cleveland Browns. But here we go. Commissioner's up at the podium, so we will wait and see what happens. Oh, doing the Walter Payton Man of the Year right now before Travis Hunter gets selected. So let's wait and see. We are waiting. But now, while they're doing this, we'll continue on here. Let's move on to the New York Giants. They are a team that's very interesting. I am still not sold on them not going Shedeur Sanders here at pick 3. I think it is still a possibility. I know all the reports are out there saying that he's not going. I have Abdul Carter in my mock draft going. All right. I do have it. But you can't underestimate the power of an owner who wants to get involved. And Mr. Mara is one of those owners who does get involved. So we will see if this stays. But here we go. Yep, and Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar. Well, it definitely started off with a bang here. He will be heading to Jacksonville. He will be playing both sides of the ball. And I think Trevor Lawrence is a very happy man that he now has two elite young wide receivers on the outside. Jacksonville's going to be an interesting team next year. I'll tell you. I mean, they've got a good defensive front. They're going to add to it on day 2, most likely. I think they still need to add some pieces to the secondary as well. When we look at this, so that could be something to keep an eye on. They lost Evan Ingram, they lost Christian Kirk, they lost Andre Cisco, Ronald Darby, Brandon Scherf on the offensive line. And, they didn't bring in too much. I mean, they brought De'Ami Brown, who's now going to be wide receiver 3 out of the slot with Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside. You brought in Patrick McCarry to beef up the O-line, Jordan Lewis to play as one of your corners. And then you also brought in Eric Murray as a safety option. But you still need help here. I think you need to add at least one more impactful piece to the secondary. And you obviously need to add to the defensive line. Just add one more piece in there, I think, could be good. Even if it's 4th round, I think you want to use one of those day 2 picks that I mentioned earlier. But, man, the Jaguars are going to be an interesting team, especially in this AFC South, right? We got back-to-back AFC South teams picking here. Tennessee Titans picked up Cam Ward. Jacksonville Jaguars get Travis Hunter. And yes, Robbie, Travis is going to play both ways. He's probably going to play wide receiver and then packages on the defensive side of the ball. So probably, 30, 40% on the defensive side of the ball, if I had to guess. Just important situations. He does better in zone. He'll probably play in zone packages, stuff like that. Red zone snaps. Just when they need him, he'll be doing that. He won't be playing full-time both ways, I don't think. But they're drafting him for his offensive ability. What he can do, he's an elite wide receiver. He's my wide receiver 2 behind Emeka Egbuka. He's great ball skills on both sides of the ball. Great route running ability, twitchy, quick. I mean, he's everything you can ask for on the offensive side of the ball. So now the New York Giants are on the clock, and there's just 2 minutes and 35 seconds left. So let's talk about them for a little bit, real quick. There's a lot going on with the New York Giants. They brought in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, so they have 2 old quarterbacks on their roster. One of them will probably play decent. It'll be interesting to see what they do here. Abdul Carter is the one that we have in the mock here. I think most people have Abdul Carter going here. People are talking about how Brian Daboll likes Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders, which isn't a wild claim. I think a lot of people actually like Jackson Dart because he has a higher ceiling than Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders has a much higher floor, but when you're New York Giants, who have Russell Wilson, have Jameis Winston for at least the next year, you don't necessarily need your rookie quarterback to be ready immediately. So if you go with a guy like Jackson Dart late in the 1st round or early 2nd round, you can let him develop. So it'll be interesting to see. You never know. As I mentioned, owners can get involved. I think Mara can be someone that gets involved, and you also can't underestimate the fact that both Daboll and Shane are on the hot seat right now, and they need to make a splash. We saw what happened in the movie Draft Day with Sonny Weaver. He makes a splash, trades 3 first-round picks to get up to number 1. I'm not putting it past the Giants to do something that they probably shouldn't. They made a great choice last year in Malik Neighbors. We'll see if they can continue that trend and get an Abdul Carter here. I think that's probably the best pick, even though it's not their biggest need. They have a pretty good defensive front, but if we learned anything from last year's season with the Philadelphia Eagles, is you can never have too much pass rushing depth. Abdul Carter's someone that, you don't talk about it too much with his ability to be a hybrid type player, but he started his career at Penn State as an inside off-ball linebacker, right? And he's a guy that can make an impact as a QB spy, coming off the edge, rushing the passer, setting an edge and being a good run defender as well, and also potentially dropping into coverage as well. He has the athleticism to be able to do that. His sideline-to-sideline ability is probably his biggest asset. So the New York Giants can have fun with him, right? They can kind of manipulate his positioning on the field, play him in different situations on different places around the field. And when you're going up against teams like the Eagles, on the commissioner's up, having a guy like Abdul Carter would be big. And Abdul Carter is a New York Giant. He is the third overall pick in this draft. My number one player, or co-number one player, with Travis Hunter, is off the board here and going to the New York Giants. I think this is probably the right pick here for New York. I could have seen them trade down as well, and if they were able to stay in the top 10, they also could have made a case for that as well. But as I mentioned, Abdul Carter is quite possibly the best player in this draft. And you add him to a defensive front here that has Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Chauncey Golston. It's a very Kayvon Thibodeau. It's a very strong defensive front here. And when you look at this defense now of the New York Giants, it's starting to build itself up a little bit here. If Deonte Banks can turn it around and have a good season at corner, you add Paulson Adebo to the other side. You sign Jevon Holland to pair with Tyler Nubin, who had a great rookie season at the safety position. And I already talked about the defensive front. It's a good unit. It really is. There's, still some holes, right? The depth isn't the best in the league, but you never know. I think this is good. And yes, potentially. I don't think he's as good as Micah Parsons. I think he's more athletic than Micah Parsons, which could be an advantage. I don't know. But as a pure pass rusher, and edge setter, more specifically edge setter, I think Micah Parsons is a little bit better. But we'll wait and see. You never know. I mean, again, Micah Parsons is kind of new to being an edge rusher. He didn't start off as an edge rusher, and he obviously had a great production-wise season this past year. So if he's able to, really mold into this defensive scheme here in New York and adapt quickly to the NFL level, I see no reason why he can't at least be equals with Micah Parsons, if not better. So we'll see what happens. But very similar-ish style players. So, all right. Now we get to, we thought this wouldn't be interesting, but it kind of is. We had the big trade. New England's on the clock. Is there potentially a trade here for Chicago to move up and jump over the Cleveland Browns to make sure they get Ashton Jeanty? Potentially. I'm hearing that New England is not going to accept that trade. I don't know. We'll see. But New England's on the clock. They could go a couple different ways here. I'm not going to say no to Ashton Jeanty here. Ashton Jeanty is a possibility. Even though you probably want an offensive tackle here to protect Drake May. I think they're going Will Campbell, the left tackle out of LSU. You use your third overall pick last year to draft Drake May, your franchise quarterback. You're going to use your fourth overall pick this year to draft a franchise left tackle to protect that said franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. I think it just makes sense. You already have Ramondre Stevenson, so it's not the biggest need in the world to go and get a running back. And in a class like this that has a lot of talent at it, you don't need to waste a top 5 pick. And it's not wasting on Ashton Jeanty, first of all. Just to say, he's my fourth best player in this class. He's ridiculous, right? But when you're the New England Patriots, I think you have bigger needs than that. Your offensive line is kind of in shambles. You go out and get a veteran like Morgan Moses to play on the right side, but you still have a huge hole in Drake May's blind side. And a lot of people say, Will Campbell's arm length is too short. I mean, people have been saying that since he started at LSU, and he's been elite at LSU. And he's going up against SEC caliber edge rushers who end up going into the NFL, right? I mean, just looking at this, Let me say the final big board here. When we look at edge rushers that he would have faced, Jalen Walker went to Georgia. He's my number 7 player. We look at Walter Nolan, probably didn't go off against him too much as an interior player, but at Ole Miss. Then you've got Jihad Campbell, who played off the edge a few times at the 17. James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, my 19th best player. We've got, we can keep going here, but Mykel Williams out of Georgia, he went up against a lot. Shamar Stewart, he went up against. We can keep going and going and going and going. He went up against a lot of the top edge rushers in this year's class. And in years prior, he went up against some of the top edge rushers in those classes, and he was just fine. So I do not see any reason why that the Patriots should be concerned, because I believe he's going to be an all-pro caliber left tackle. And at worst, he's a productive guard. At worst. And you can say, oh, if he ends up being a guard, was it worth the 4th overall pick? Probably not. But you got to take a shot here. I just don't see any other, unless you trade down. And for example, with the Chicago Bears, if you trade down with Chicago Bears, keep a top 10 pick, potentially getting Armand Membu or Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons at 10, where the value for the player is a little better, then why not? Go for it. But if you're sticking at 4 and you're going offensive line, you go Will Campbell. Will Campbell is the best offensive lineman in this class. I think you can argue that Josh Simmons is. I like Josh Simmons a lot, but last season, or 2023, he looked really good on tape, potential top 10 pick, potential top 5 pick even, but he had issues with penalties. He comes back, plays just a few games, didn't play much this past season before getting injured. It looked like he cleaned up the penalties, but you can't know for sure just because he didn't play that much. So it's a little concerning if going after Simmons, who is potentially the best offensive tackle in this class. He's my number. What is Josh Simmons? He's my number 21 player right now, just at the end of my first round grades. But coming off of a lower body injury at his size, all the signs are that he's going to be okay, and it's not going to be a long-standing issue, but still, it's a little bit of a red flag. At his size, coming back from a lower body injury, unsure of if he's able to clean up the penalties, because it's one thing cleaning up the penalties at the collegiate level and the NFL level. So going against NFL competition, does that come back again? I don't know, potentially. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to assume Will Campbell is the pick here, unless something crazy happens. And then it comes down to Cleveland. What do? They felt comfortable trading down to 5 because they knew that they could still get someone at the 5th pick. Is it a Mason Graham? Is it Ashton Jeanty? Is it Tetairoa McMillan? Is it Kelvin Banks or Armand Membu? Is it Jalen Walker? There are a few options here for Cleveland, but here's the pick for Patriots. And Will Campbell is a New England Patriot. I think we kind of all knew that was going to be the pick. And let me just write these down. I kind of forgot the other ones. Abdul Carter at Penn State. And then the trade, which I'll do later. But as I mentioned, I think this was always the pick. Makes sense to go out there and protect your new franchise quarterback, especially since you don't have anybody on the blind side that you would necessarily trust. And to be honest, my mock draft's looking pretty good. I think the only thing I got wrong is I had Travis Hunter going to Cleveland at 2 instead of Jacksonville at 2. So I'll definitely take that. But now Cleveland is on the clock once again. Pick number 5, 8.5 minutes left on the clock. And we can get back into talking about this. What are they going to do? Personally, I think they have to go Ashton Jeanty here. You lose Nick Chubb's productivity in the backfield. You don't have the option to go after Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter anymore, right? Could you reach for a guy like Kelvin Banks to play left tackle for you? Maybe it wouldn't be what I would do. Could you reach on a guy like Tet McMillan to add another weapon on offense? You could, but I mean, now you have 2 early second round picks. Do you go Shedeur Sanders? Is Shedeur Sanders the pick now at 5 instead of 2? I'm not completely ruling that out either. We talked about Shedeur Sanders as potentially an option here at 2 earlier in the process. Is that what Cleveland was thinking? If we trade out of 2 and we have top 5 picks, still go after Shedeur Sanders. I don't think so. I don't think that's the pick, but it's definitely a possibility. So we will see. But we have 7 minutes and 15 seconds here left on the clock. I don't know. I don't know here. Honestly, I think it has to be Ashton Jeanty. I just don't. First of all, I don't think Cleveland should have necessarily traded out of 2. I'm going to say that right now. I think it doesn't make too much sense to me. You get Travis Hunter, who can make an impact on both sides of the ball. It's not like Cleveland's a horrible team, by the way. I mean, they've got a decent depth chart, right? If we pull this up, I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. We go to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, first of all, wide receiver room needs some help. Jerry Jeudy looked really good last year. Cedric Tillman was kind of up and down a little bit, but if he plays well, he could be an interesting option. And then you've got Michael Woods the second. You need another receiver. The offensive line is pretty decent. You got Jack Conklin and DeJuan Jones on the outsides. Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio with Eason Posich as the interior. That's not bad at all. David Njoku is a good tight end. The pick is in for Cleveland. We'll see if he comes up here. But Jerome Ford is your starting running back. I don't necessarily like, so I think Ashton Jeanty could be good there. And on the defensive side of the ball, other than going after Mason Graham here, I don't think they do anything on the defensive side of the ball either. I mean, I'm looking at this. Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Hickman, Martin Emerson, decent secondary group there. The defensive front isn't great besides Myles Garrett. I mean, you bring in Malik Collins to play on the interior alongside Shelby Harris. I mean, Isaiah McGuire probably isn't the ideal defensive end. And you got Jordan Hicks with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on the interior with Joe Troyinka as depth. I mean, it's not great. They could go defense here. I don't know. I think they wait till the second round on that. So I think it has to be Ashton Jeanty. It has to be. I mean, if you don't draft Ashton Jeanty here, I think you lose this trade by a mile. Unless you use your first round pick that you get out of this next year and end up drafting your franchise quarterback. Like if you're really bad this year and you get Arch Manning next year, maybe it's a win. But it has to be Ashton Jeanty. And here comes the commissioner now, so we will see what Cleveland does. Mason Graham is the pick. Interesting. Very, very interesting here. Mason Graham going to Cleveland. Okay. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I was not expecting that at all. But here we are. I mean, I love Mason Graham. First of all, he's my third best player in this class. I had him going to the Jaguars at 5 for the longest time before I eventually uh, moved Ashton Jeanty in that spot with a trade with the Chicago Bears. Mason Graham is a great player, like a really good player, both as a pass rusher and as a run defender. He's extremely twitchy. He's got great strength. He's a good block shedder. I mean, he's extremely effective on that interior. And playing next to Myles Garrett, he could be extremely productive and a potential shout for Rookie of the Year next year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, playing next to Myles Garrett, who's going to get a lot of double teams, he could end up getting a lot of free shots at the quarterback and could get a lot of really easy open gaps into the backfield. So, I mean, I like the pick. I mean, Travis Hunter is probably better. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they got a second-round pick this year. They add a first-round pick next year. I mean, we won't really know who wins this trade until after those picks are settled. I mean, if the Browns end up using one of those second-round picks on a quarterback and that quarterback ends up being really good, then we'll know before the first-round pick next year, because I think if you get Mason Graham and a potential franchise quarterback, then you win this trade. But Mason Graham for Travis Hunter straight up, don't like it all. So we'll have to see what the Browns do here on day 2. If they use some of those picks to trade back in to the first round this year. But we'll see what happens. All right. Now Vegas is on the clock. And this is a very, very interesting pick here. They could go a lot of different directions here. I know Pete Carroll was tweeting earlier today, trying to send hints to everybody about what the pick is going to be. Some people are potentially thinking it's a wide receiver. I know some people said bold prediction, it's Emeka Egbuka. Tedero McMillan would probably be the obvious wide receiver choice. But then the two picks that have kind of been thrown around over the past few weeks has been Armand Membou, offensive tackle out of Missouri. Sorry, 3 picks. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle out of Texas. And then there is, obviously, Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State. I personally didn't think this many teams could have passed on Ashton Jeanty, just because he's a blue chip player, and there aren't too many blue chip players in this class. We'll see what ends up happening here. I mean, I don't think the Raiders necessarily have a downside here. You get Kelvin Banks to be your franchise left tackle. You get Armand Membou to be your franchise right tackle. Or you get Ashton Jeanty to be a complete game changer on the offensive side of the ball. I think the easy winner is Ashton Jeanty. It supports the offense a little bit. He probably makes the biggest impact out of anybody that they could draft here. But I don't know. This is a really interesting pick for me, and it looks like the commissioner is coming out now, and we will find out. It's got to be Ashton. Yeah, and Ashton Jeanty is finally off the board. Ashton Jeanty is a Las Vegas Raider. Well, my mock draft is not looking good anymore. 2 straight reds. When we grade these, did you get the player right? Did you get the correct position of who the team picks? And did you get the right team? 3 reds across the board for the last 2 picks. So, not great. I kind of wish I'd kept Ashton Jeanty at 6 here. I think I kind of fell to the smoke a little bit with that Armand Membou selection. But I also thought the Bears were going to trade up here. I really thought that Ben Johnson was going to go up and get his guy because the current running back room in Chicago is nothing like it was like in Detroit. And Ashton Jeanty would have been that Jahmyr Gibbs, potentially better than the Jahmyr Gibbs impact in Detroit. So Vegas got a good one. I mean, Ashton Jeanty, goes into Las Vegas under Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll kind of gets his, Marshawn Lynch, very different players, first of all, but he goes and gets his star running back to take the workload, be the little safety valve here for Geno Smith. But now we can kind of expect the Raiders to go and get an offensive lineman in round 2. I believe that's probably what they're going to end up doing with that. If we go to the Raiders here, yeah, so they have pick 37 in round 2 and pick 68 in round 3. So at pick 37, I'm probably expecting an offensive lineman, whether it's Arante Ursary, Josh Connolly Jr. Out of Oregon, someone like that. Maybe it's a Donovan Jackson if he slips into the second round. But I probably expect pick 37 to be an offensive lineman, and then pick 68 to be either a defensive player or a wide receiving option to give Geno Smith a target. So that's kind of what I see the Raiders doing. But this offense is going to run through Ashton Jeanty. That's what it's going to be. Ashton Jeanty's going to get 25 carries a game, most likely, and be the guy in Vegas. So now we move on to my New York Jets. I don't know what they're going to do here. I have Tyler Warren. I mean, they could go defense here. I mean, Jalen Walker is an option. Michael Williams is an option. Jahdae Barron, who I'd love in this team, is an option. I'd be fine trading down if possible. If someone wants to come up and get, a Jalen Walker before Carolina, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But right now, I currently have Tyler Warren in there. They passed on Brock Bowers last year. There are no offensive weapons in the passing game outside of Garrett Wilson right now for this New York Jets team. So I think they have to go offense, I think. And when I look at this team, they have so many holes. I mean, they don't really have a good corner outside of Sauce. They can always use some edge rushing help. Jalen Walker would be a great hybrid player, but I mean, he's probably not the pick because Quincy Williams is currently with the team. He kind of plays that position that Jalen Walker would play. I mean, safety could be like a crazy, just unexpected pick because we have no safeties on our roster pretty much. So Nicky Man Warrior Malachi Starks, especially if they trade back, could be an option. Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron to kind of be that second corner behind Sauce Gardner could be interesting. But I think most people's favorite pick is Armand Membu or Kelvin Banks Jr. Kelvin Banks, to me, doesn't really make much sense because I don't want people changing positions right now on this offensive line. We have Olufushano as our left tackle. I don't want Simpson or Elijah Vera Tucker moving tackle. So if we go offensive line, I think Armand Membu makes the most sense being a natural right tackle. He's a plug-and-place guy that can go in, take over from Morgan Moses, and for the first time in I don't know how long, the Jets have a full offensive line that they can trust. Now, injuries are still a thing, and as a Jets fan, I expect those injuries to happen and ruin our season. And the problem with drafting Armand Membu, in my opinion, is I don't think it changes the team enough. I really don't. And by the time if you go Armand Membu here, I think by the time the rest of the team is built to a place where it can compete, some of those offensive line pieces are probably going to leave. So is it worth going out and getting an Armand Membu now? I think that's the question that you got to ask. But for me, Tyler Warren, Jahdae Barron, and Armand Membu are probably the three options here. I've got Tyler Warren in here just because I think, as I mentioned, we don't have any offensive weapons in the passing game currently, besides Garrett Wilson. The Jets are apparently shopping Breece Hall, who's our next best offensive weapon in the passing game. So that would be interesting. But Tyler Warren's a guy that can do everything, right? He can run the seam. He can inline block. He can catch a screen behind the line of scrimmage and make something happen with the ball in his hands. He can play as a wildcat quarterback in certain packages. He can do everything, right? Another interesting shout could be Colson Loveland. Did the Jets have Colson Loveland graded above Tyler Warren? I don't think so, because Tyler Warren had a top 30 visit and Colson Loveland didn't with the Jets. But I don't know. I think Tyler Warren has to be the pick here. If I'm the GM, I'm picking Tyler Warren. I can tell you that right now. I'm picking Tyler Warren. My second option would be Jahdae Barron, and my third option would be Armand Membu. Jahdae Barron is my 6th ranked player in this class. Tyler Warren is my 5th ranked player in this class. So right next to each other with Armand Membu, I believe. Where's Armand Membu? Armand Membu is my 13th ranked player in this class, but number 1 right tackle. But the pick is in for the Jets. It's got to be Tyler Warren, right? I'm wearing my Zach Wilson jersey, my lucky Zach Wilson jersey here. We've made some good picks with me wearing this in the past few years. Let's see. All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I'm not necessarily ecstatic about it. I mean, I probably would have rather had Tyler Warren there. I mean, Armand Membu's great. Don't get me wrong. He's elite. We're going to have an offensive line for the first time in forever, like a full offensive line for the first time in forever. But we're not going to be good either way. With the team that we have out there, we're not going to be good. So I don't know. I'm not ecstatic. There's nothing wrong with the pick, as my co-host Cole Noble just texted me. There's nothing wrong with the pick. It is a perfectly fine pick. It's going to make us better. It's not exciting. It doesn't get me excited. I mean, Olu Fashanu didn't get me excited last year either. I wanted Brock Bowers. But it makes sense, right? I mean, the depth at the tight end position in this class is much greater than offensive line, especially at right tackle, right? The next best person that could play at right tackle is Josh Conerly, who's probably gone in the late first, early second before the Jets pick again. And then after that, it drops down a good amount. I mean, I'm trying to think of who else could potentially play right tackle. I mean, I don't think Anthony Belton could do that. Logan Brown and Ozzie Trapillo, they could. Charles Grant could probably. So there are a few other options, but it would have been much later. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm fine with it. I think it's not my favorite pick. I think the pick makes sense. You go out, complete the offensive line, give Justin Fields protection. So I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with this. We finally have a complete offensive line. Hopefully the running game is going to be much better going into 2025 now with a complete offensive line. They got to stay healthy, as I mentioned earlier. But I think Justin Fields with a complete offensive line, Breece Hall, hopefully, Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson, maybe Mason Taylor with our second round pick. That could be an option. Add him in, and then later, round 3, draft a wide receiver, Kyle Williams, Trey Harris. I don't think a guy like Jalen Noel will get there. Jack Betch. Add someone into the receiving core, and it's not bad. I think you get before Jets fans completely judge this pick and say it's horrible. We should have gone an offensive lineman, should have gone an edge rusher, whatever it is. Got to see how the rest of the draft plays out, because if you hit the other areas of need, I think Armand Membu is a perfectly fine pick here at 7. So Carolina Panthers pick is in. I think this pick has been set for like the entire draft process. Every single time I've seen a mock draft, Jalen Walker has been the pick here out of Georgia, the off-ball linebacker / edge rusher. He's the pick, right? It's been the pick the entire time. So we'll see if he ends up, if the Panthers end up going there. There are a few options, right? When Mason Graham was potentially dropping, people were having Mason Graham drop there. Mykel Williams, could he be the pick? Go out and get an edge rusher. Shamar Stewart, go out and get like a young, athletic edge rusher that you can develop. Is it a Will Johnson or a Jahdae Barron to add to the secondary? There are a few. Do you go with a Tyler Warren? He dropped past the Jets. I know the defense is probably where you want to go here, but do you go out and get an elite playmaker for Bryce Young on the offensive side of the ball? There are a bunch of different ways that Carolina can go. I'm personally on the side that they're going to go Jalen Walker. He's a guy that can play off ball. He's a guy that can play off the edge. He sets a good edge in the run game. And he's also a guy that's a great leader on and off the field. So in a fairly young Panthers team that's just going to get younger as we go along here, right, over the next few years, a lot of the older players are going to be moving on. They're going to be trying to build a culture here in Carolina. Jalen Walker can be one of those leaders and probably the leader on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see if they end up going with that. Carolina's in a very weak division in the NFC South, with the Saints potentially starting Spencer Rattler at quarterback, the Falcons unsure of if Michael Penix is going to be the guy, and if he's going to be able to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. And then, the Buccaneers are going to win the division. I think that's clear. They brought back a lot of key pieces. They're going to add some pieces to the defense. Currently, I have Will Johnson mocked there, but Jihad Campbell as linebacker or Jahdae Barron as another corner option, or either the safeties would be good picks there at 19. But Panthers have a good shot of being second in this division, and if the rest of the division is really bad and they can beat up on them, they could be fighting for a wild card spot. The NFC is not the AFC. The NFC, there are some openings for teams. If they can have a good stretch of games, there is a chance. So you got to build a good defensive core here, and I think Jalen Walker would be the start of that. So the pick is in. The commissioner is coming out to the stand, and we will see if Jalen Walker ends up being the pick as it has been since the very beginning. Tetairoa McMillan is going to the Carolina Panthers. That is one that I saw a while ago. Tetairoa McMillan was an option for the Panthers a few weeks ago on a few mock drafts, but it kind of quickly went away. I kind of forgot about it as an option, but you go out there and you get a big target for Bryce Young on the offensive side of the ball. I am upset about it because now it's 4 straight picks where I have across the board straight reds here on my mock draft. But Tetairoa McMillan, I have question marks about. Right, I've been very clear about that. He's currently my wide receiver 3 behind Travis Hunter and Emeka Egbuka. Honestly, I think it was being a little nice. I like Trey Harris potentially a little bit more. Jaden Higgins. Matthew Golden should probably be a little bit higher. I'll be honest, I kind of put him a little bit low on this board. He's probably a top 40 prospect. I have him just outside of the 40s. But yeah, I mean, Robbie's right. Tetairoa McMillan is a reach here. I think Tetairoa McMillan so far, when you go up against good competition, he is a pure jump ball receiver. He's physical. He's not the best route runner. He's not the quickest receiver out there. Noah Fafita just kind of threw the ball up to him and let him go up and get it, which there's a place for that in the NFL. And he could be a very dangerous player in this Carolina offense. They need a receiver. Was 8 the spot to go and get him? No, probably not. But here he is. He's coming out. He's going to be a Carolina Panther. And I think Bryce Young is very happy with this pick. You need defense. I think their defense has a lot of holes. But Bryce Young, in order for him to grow, he needs some better targets out there. And I can almost guarantee that he is just going to be chucking balls up to Tetairoa McMillan when he's like double covered during some of these and trying to get him to go out there and catch it. So we'll see what happens. But we move on to New Orleans Saints at pick 9. And this is a very interesting pick because there have been reports that Jackson Dart is not getting by the Saints at 9. I personally don't believe those. We'll see. I like Jackson Dart, but I think it's only one report, and I'm not necessarily going to go off just that one report. But, Michael Penix also went in the top 8 last year with the Atlanta Falcons, so you never know. Tyler Warren could be an option here. Go out and get an offensive playmaker. Yes, you brought back Juwan Johnson, but, it is Juwan Johnson. He can be replaced if you want to go out and get another offensive weapon. Do you go with a Jalen Walker? He dropped past the Panthers, so he's an option here. Mykel Williams has been in talks a lot to be the Saints pick here. Kelvin Banks Jr., we just got news that Ryan Ramczyk has retired. Trevor Penning is not getting his 5th-year option exercised, so he is not in the long-term future here for the Saints, so offensive line could be a pick here. And Shamar Stewart is another one that could be there. We know the Saints have made a lot of interesting picks in the past in the first round. Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport went a lot earlier than they probably should have because the Saints decided to pick them. So is Shamar Stewart, who, extremely athletic, right? But almost little to no production at the college level, people still are probably going to risk a first-round pick on him because of the ability to develop him. It does seem like a Saints pick. So we'll see what happens. Currently, I have Kelvin Banks Jr. mocked there. I think getting rid of or not exercising Trevor Penning's contract is a sign that I think they're comfortable with their situation on the offensive line, which means they're probably thinking of taking someone, whether it's this first round pick here or if they're going to do something a little bit later on. I don't know. But personally, I have Kelvin Banks mocked here. I think that is a very likely outcome here, is that Kelvin Banks is the pick. But as we've seen so far during this, twice, there have been some reaches here, right? Mason Graham, not necessarily a reach, but an interesting pick for the Browns. Tetairoa McMillan to the Panthers, a reach. So we'll see what happens. It could be Jackson Dart. We could get our second quarterback off the board here, which would make the rest of the night very interesting because now that Jackson Dart's off the board, these other teams, the Giants, the Browns, are going to have to trade up into the first round earlier to try to go out and get Shedeur Sanders if they want a quarterback. So I believe the commissioner is coming out to the stand now to announce the Saints pick. And Kelvin Banks Jr. is the pick. Finally, we get something right in the mock draft again. We are back in the green straight across. I think this makes all the sense in the world. Kelvin Banks, 3-year starter at Texas, was extremely productive in pass pro. And he's going to be a guy that is going to protect the Saints quarterback for years to come. Whether it ends up being Spencer Rattler, whether the Saints move back up in the first round to get Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders, do they go Tyler Shuck on day 2 or someone else, right? No matter who it is, they now go out and get a guy. This also gives Trevor Penning the opportunity to move to the inside this year, potentially play guard, and try to earn the trust of this New Orleans Saints team on the inside and potentially stay there long term. So Kelvin Banks Jr. is awesome. I'm a Texas Longhorns fan, so I watch him all the time. He's a beast. Great in pass pro, a good run blocker. He's a very athletic player as well, able to move up the field, get up different levels. So really like his ability, and the Saints got a really good player here. And now we move to the Chicago Bears, who I believe are going to go Tyler Warren here. This was kind of, the fallback plan is if they didn't get Ashton Jeanty, they were going to go Tyler Warren, pair him up with Cole Kmet, have a nice 12 personnel on their offensive side of the ball. This is going to be the last pick that we do. We're only doing the top 10 tonight, I believe. So this will be the last pick that we're going to cover. We might come back at the end of the first round. You never know if things get a little interesting. But the Bears, they could go Michael Williams. That's another option. Could we see offensive line? I mean, after Kelvin Banks went, probably not. I mean, Josh Simmons would be a little bit of a reach. But I've heard Michael Williams. I've heard I've heard Tyler Warren. I've also heard Colston Loveland as an option here. So we'll see what happens. The pick is in, so we should be getting that pretty soon. But I'm assuming it's either going to be tight end, offensive line, or edge. It just depends on what player it's going to be. And based on the rumors, it is Tyler Warren or Michael Williams. Okay. We're talking about the schedule release now. All right. So we're going to extend this a little bit longer here as we listen for the announcement on the schedule release. But the Bears are now in an interesting. We'll talk about the Bears a little bit. The Bears are in an interesting situation here where they're going to most likely get Tyler Warren, as I mentioned, but now Ben Johnson does not have the running back room that he wants. So we're expecting running back on day 2. Who is it going to be? Quinshon Judkins is a guy that you definitely want to look at. Potentially Travion Henderson as well. Both Ohio State guys are going to be interesting. If Omarion Hampton falls into the second round, that could be an option as well. But I'm personally leaning towards one of the Ohio State guys as the next Bears pick. So wow. All right. May 14th, the schedule drops. Great. All right. About 3 weeks from now. So great. If you want to know that, good. That's over with. Now we get back to the draft with the Chicago Bears. And while we wait for this pick to come through, let's talk about the rest because we're not going to be here. Pick 11, I currently have Michael Williams mocked there. 12, Matthew Golden. 13, Jahdae Barron. Colston Loveland to the Indianapolis Colts at 14. And then James Pierce Jr. mocked to the Atlanta Falcons at 15. All those players are still available, so definitely something that can happen. Josh Simmons going 16. Here we go. We'll finish this up in a second. We're just going to go through the rest of the mock draft real quick before we sign off. He's coming up to the board. As I mentioned, Josh Simmons to Arizona at 16. Walter Nolan to the Cincinnati Bengals at 17. Tedero McMillan now not available. I'm assuming Gray Zabel will end up going, or one of the interior offensive line will go at Seattle at 18, or potentially trading back with someone that wants to move up. Will Johnson to Tampa Bay. Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland. I'm not really sure that's going to happen anymore. So maybe Denver stays and gets Luther Burden or Omarion Hampton, or potentially trades back. But here comes the pick for the Chicago Bears. So we'll see what happens here. And then we'll go through these last 11 picks before San Francisco gets on the clock. And if San Francisco announces before we finish going through that, we'll announce that one and then end the stream here. But we're just waiting. Omarion Hampton's also an option here, by the way. They're talking about Walter Payton, just saying. I don't think it'll happen, but Omarion Hampton is potentially an option here. So we'll see. But while they're doing this, we can keep going. I do, as I mentioned, Omarion Hampton. I had him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That could change now if Shedeur Sanders is available. Kenneth Grant to the Chargers because Colson Loveland's not available. And here we go. Colston Loveland. There we go. We get a surprise there. Some teams were saying that they had Colston Loveland as the tight end one in this class. I had him in the top 10 as well. He's my 10th player with Tyler Warren as my 5th best player. Both really, really solid players. And they decide that Colston Loveland is the best tight end on their board and fits their system the best. So he is actually the first tight end off the board instead of Tyler Warren. So now we can kind of expect Indianapolis to go and get Tyler Warren. Dallas could be a possibility. And a very outlier here would be for Denver to trade up ahead of Indianapolis to get Tyler Warren. So some interesting things could be happening in this next few picks here. But we're going to continue going on with the rest of this mock draft before we sign off. Let me just finish this up here. But Colston Loveland's a great pick. We'll just go through this real quick. He's very different than Tyler Warren, right? He's not the gadget guy that can do a bunch of different things. He's a seam runner. He's a guy that can line up on the outside even. He's a pass catcher. That is what he is. He's a very underrated in the run game, though, as a blocker. He's a very capable blocker. But his specialty is as a pass catcher. He's going to be lining up in the slot, potentially even outside, and running seam routes, running deep, making plays in the passing game. So very different from Tyler Warren, and it's a decent complement to a Cole Kmet, who they currently have on the roster. So that is the end of the top 10. Let's just recap this real quick. The first 4 picks were exactly as first 7 picks, the first 7 picks were pretty much exactly as advertised. Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans, Travis Hunter, not to the Cleveland Browns, but to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2. Abdul Carter goes to the New York Giants, Will Campbell to the New England Patriots, Mason Graham goes to the Cleveland Browns at 5 instead of Jacksonville, Ashton Genty goes to Vegas at 6, and Armand Membu goes to the New York Jets at 7. After that, it gets a little crazy. Tetairoa McMillan ends up going to Carolina at 8. Kelvin Banks Jr., as advertised, goes to the New Orleans Saints at 9. And at 10, we get a tight end, not the tight end people were thinking, but Colston Loveland goes to Chicago at pick 10. So some notable players still on the board that made it outside of the top 10. Tyler Warren and Jalen Walker both still available as we get into the early teens here. So those are 2 names to watch out for, as some of these teams probably didn't expect them to be here. So there could be some changes in teams' draft plans. So let's go through the rest of this first round mock before we get to the end. 21, as I mentioned, Omarion Hampton, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That could change now that Cleveland probably won't trade up to 20. I mean, it's still a possibility. Giants could also be a team that trades up there as well. And New Orleans. All 3 teams looking for a quarterback could be in the market to trade back in the first round. Omarion Hampton I have going there. Also, interior defensive line could be an option, as well as quarterback. 22, I mentioned Kenneth Grant out of Michigan going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now that Colson Loveland isn't there, I believe Harbaugh is still going to go back to one of his Michigan guys and go out and get an interior defensive lineman to kind of shore up the interior of their defensive line. At 23, Shamar Stewart to the Green Bay Packers. As this draft is going, we could potentially see Shamar Stewart go earlier. But we know Brian Gutekunst loves his RAS scores. And, Shamar Stewart had a very good RAS score. So most likely him or Maxwell Harrison potentially at 23. 24, we got Nicky Manwari going to the Minnesota Vikings. I think secondary is the pick there. Could be a corner as well. Houston gets Grey Zabel at 25. I think Houston could be a team that ends up trading up to potentially get an offensive lineman now, especially since Seattle, without Teteroa McMillan on the board, could go interior offensive line as well. If not, and they stay there and they don't like the offensive lineman available, Emeka Egbuka will most likely join up with his former teammate in CJ Stroud. 26, I have Philadelphia making a trade with the Rams coming up to get their safety ahead of the Baltimore Ravens, who are also looking to get a safety. They get Malachi Starks. Mike Green drops, ends up going to Baltimore at 27. Tyler Booker goes to Detroit. Maxwell Harrison to Washington. Derek Harmon to Buffalo. And finally, Donovan Jackson goes to Kansas City. And to the Rams goes Jihad Campbell at 32. So that's it for tonight. We might come back a little bit later to talk about the end of the draft, but that's the top 10 picks, and enjoy the rest of draft night. Me and Cole will be back next week to recap. We'll probably do a first round recap on Monday and then a weekend recap on Thursday. But that is the end of this. Thank you, Robbie, and we will see you later.